A mom at my son's preschool became obsessed with my husband and started stalking our family. She moved into the building next to us. She tried breaking into our home while we were selling it. I, 32F, never thought I'd be dealing with something like this at my age, but here I am. What started as odd behavior at my son's preschool has escalated into something that keeps me up at night, and I need somewhere to vent about this mess. My husband Mark, 34M, and I have been married for 6 years and have a 3-year-old son, Ethan. We live in Seattle, where house prices are through the roof, so we were lucky to find a decent apartment in a nice neighborhood with a good preschool nearby. We enrolled Ethan there last year, and until recently, everything was going smoothly. Mark and I value our family time tremendously. We both work demanding jobs. I'm in healthcare administration, and he's an architect at a prestigious firm. Despite our busy schedules, we make it a point to drop off and pick up Ethan together whenever possible. It's our special family routine that gives us valuable time together before we head off to our separate workdays. The preschool is pretty typical. Parents rush in and out, most barely acknowledging each other beyond quick nods or brief hellos. That's why Diana's, 40F, behavior stood out from the beginning. Diana has a daughter, Lily, in Ethan's class. I noticed her about 6 months ago when she started giving me strange looks during morning drop-offs. At first, I thought maybe I had something on my face or had unknowingly offended her. I tried smiling and saying hello a few times, but she always responded with a cold stare or completely ignored me. After several attempts, I stopped trying and just focused on Ethan. The situation took a bizarre turn about 2 months ago. Mark had to handle drop-off alone because I had an early meeting. That evening, he came home with an odd story. Diana, who had never spoken a word to me despite numerous opportunities, had struck up a very enthusiastic conversation with him. In the span of about 10 minutes, she told him her entire life story, where she grew up, Portland, where she went to college, NYU, details of her divorce, husband left her for a coworker, and how unhappy she was with her current job and living situation. When Mark mentioned he was an architect, Diana acted like he was a celebrity. She peppered him with questions about his firm and the projects he worked on. Mark, being naturally friendly and trying to be polite, mentioned that I had actually attended NYU around the same time as Diana, thinking it might help thaw whatever issue she had with me. I laughed it off, joking that Diana had basically speed dated my husband in the preschool hallway. We didn't think much more about it, chalking it up to her just being socially awkward. The following week, Mark traveled to Chicago for a project presentation. I handled drop-offs and pickups alone for 10 days. Every single day, Diana somehow appeared next to me in the hallway or waiting area. She never spoke to me or even acknowledged my presence, but she positioned herself close enough to eavesdrop on my conversations with teachers or other parents. Several times, I caught her leaning in slightly when I was talking to another mom about weekend plans or activities for the kids. The behavior was so bizarre that I mentioned it to Mark during our nightly calls. He found it strange that Diana hadn't even attempted to talk to me, especially after being so quick to chat with him. When Mark returned from his trip, we went back to our routine of dropping off Ethan together. 3 days after Mark's return, Diana entered the classroom while Mark was adjusting Ethan's backpack in his cubby and I was across the room helping Ethan hang up his coat. Diana walked right up to Mark, grabbed his arm, and enthusiastically asked how his trip had gone and if he was glad to be back. Mark, surprised by her familiarity, immediately gestured toward me and introduced us. Diana looked at me with a strange expression and claimed she remembered seeing me at some alumni event months ago. This was an obvious lie, not only because we interacted at the preschool nearly every day, but also because I hadn't attended any alumni events in years. From that day forward, Diana's behavior became even more blatant. When Mark and I arrived together at the preschool, she would enthusiastically greet him while completely ignoring me, even though we were clearly together, often holding hands or with Mark's arm around my shoulder. Several times, she lingered by the door at pickup time, obviously waiting for a chance to talk to Mark alone. Mark quickly picked up on her behavior and began deliberately avoiding her. He'd either pretend not to see her or give her a quick, curt nod before turning away. He told me he found her behavior disrespectful toward me and our marriage, and he wanted nothing to do with her. Despite Mark's obvious disinterest, Diana persisted. The situation began to affect my enjoyment of our family routine. I found myself scanning the hallway for her when we arrived, tensing up when I spotted her, and rushing Ethan through his morning transition just to avoid another awkward encounter. One afternoon, while chatting with another mom at pickup about an upcoming birthday party, I mentioned our address to coordinate carpooling. Diana was sitting at a nearby table, pretending to help her daughter with an art project, but I noticed her head tilt slightly in our direction when I mentioned our street name. I thought nothing of it at the time. A month later, I was walking Ethan to the park near our apartment when I spotted Diana and her daughter coming out of the building next to ours. I stopped in my tracks, and Diana noticed me. She looked equally surprised for a moment, then quickly turned away and hurried in the opposite direction. When I told Mark about the encounter, he called the leasing office of our building on speakerphone. The manager confirmed that Diana had moved into the adjacent building 3 weeks earlier. The coincidence seemed too great to ignore. The frequency of our encounters increased dramatically. I now saw Diana almost daily in our neighborhood, at the grocery store, the coffee shop, the playground. Each time, she'd ignore me completely while making obvious efforts to position herself where Mark could see her if he was with us. The situation reached a breaking point last month when Diana approached Mark outside our building one morning as he was loading Ethan into the car for school. I was upstairs grabbing a forgotten lunchbox and watched from the window as Diana tried to engage Mark in conversation. Even from a distance, I could see Mark's body language was stiff and uncomfortable. When I came down with the lunchbox, Diana quickly stepped away, but not before I heard her suggesting a weekend playdate with just you and the kids to Mark. Mark immediately told her that any playdates would need to be arranged through me. Diana never followed up. That evening, Mark and I had a long talk about the situation. We both felt Diana's behavior had crossed a line from merely annoying to genuinely concerning. The fact that she had moved so close to us after overhearing our address, combined with her persistent attempts to engage Mark while excluding me, raised serious red flags. We decided it was time to address the situation directly. The next morning, when we spotted Diana at drop-off, Mark calmly told her that I wanted to speak with her. When Diana looked surprised, he added that her pattern of ignoring me while seeking out his attention was obvious and disrespectful. I then stepped forward and told Diana plainly that her behavior was inappropriate and asked her to keep her distance from our family. I pointed out that a preschool was not a dating venue, and her actions were making us uncomfortable. Diana looked shocked. She claimed there had been a misunderstanding and that she had just happened to walk with Mark to his office one day after a coincidental meeting. When I repeated this to Mark later, he clarified that they had walked in the same direction for 1 block after leaving the preschool before he said goodbye and turned toward his office. He emphasized that he would never lead a stranger to his workplace and had simply been polite during their brief shared walk. A few days after our confrontation, Diana approached us at pickup, saying she wanted to talk. Mark excused himself, saying he needed to focus on Ethan. I spoke with Diana briefly, during which she told me angrily that we would not be friends. Coming from someone who had never once made an effort to be friendly toward me in the first place, the statement was absurd. I simply thanked her for letting me know and walked away, leaving her standing there with her mouth open. The current situation remains tense. Diana still lives in the building next to ours, and her daughter still attends Ethan's preschool. Mark and I now regularly discuss the possibility of moving, something we had considered before but now feel more urgent about. We've also informed the preschool director about the situation, providing a documented record of Diana's behavior. Several friends have suggested Diana's actions resemble stalking, which frankly terrifies us. We've started taking precautions, varying our routes, being more careful about sharing personal information, and keeping detailed records of all interactions with Diana. The preschool's holiday party is coming up next week, and based on last year's event, where Diana arrived in an inappropriately revealing outfit and spent the evening trying to chat with other children's fathers, we're dreading another uncomfortable encounter. I never imagined I'd be dealing with something like this in my 30s, especially not in the context of my child's education. The whole situation feels surreal, and I find myself constantly questioning if I'm overreacting. But when I step back and look at the pattern, the targeted hostility toward me, the excessive interest in my husband, moving to our neighborhood after learning our address, and the persistent attempts to create opportunities for one-on-one interaction with Mark, I can't help but feel deeply unsettled. Has anyone dealt with a similar situation? Any advice on how to handle this moving forward would be appreciated. I want to protect my family and maintain our peace of mind without escalating the conflict. Update 1. It's been about 2 months since my original post, and a lot has happened. First, I want to thank everyone who offered advice and support. Reading your comments helped me realize I wasn't overreacting. The preschool holiday party turned out to be even more uncomfortable than anticipated. Diana showed up in a tight red dress more suitable for a cocktail party than a children's event. Throughout the evening, she positioned herself wherever Mark went, even following him to the refreshment table when he went to get Ethan a cookie. Mark stayed close to me the entire time, making it clear we were a unit. What happened next was unexpected. Another dad from the preschool, Brian, approached us during the party and asked if Diana had been bothering us. When we cautiously acknowledged the situation, Brian revealed that Diana had exhibited similar behavior toward him the previous year when his wife was often absent due to a medical issue. According to Brian, Diana had repeatedly sought him out, ignored his wife on the rare occasions she was present, and even suggested single-parent outings. The behavior stopped when Brian's wife recovered and began regularly attending school events again. This information confirmed our suspicions that Diana's behavior was part of a pattern. Brian introduced us to 2 other couples who had similar experiences with Diana. One mom mentioned that Diana had even shown up at her husband's workplace by coincidence after hearing him mention it during a school function. Armed with this new information, we scheduled a meeting with the preschool director the following week. We brought Brian along, who had previously mentioned Diana's behavior to the director but had been told it was a personal matter between parents. With multiple families now reporting similar concerns, the director agreed to monitor the situation more closely and to ensure that Diana was never assigned to volunteer activities alongside Mark or the other affected fathers. For about 3 weeks after this meeting, Diana seemed to back off. She stopped waiting around at pickup times and kept her distance at school events. We thought perhaps the increased scrutiny from the preschool staff had made an impact. Then, one evening in late January, I was working late, and Mark picked up Ethan alone. When they didn't return home at the usual time, I texted Mark. He called me immediately, sounding stressed. He explained that Diana had followed him and Ethan from the preschool, first walking behind them, then pulling up alongside in her car, rolling down the window, and offering them a ride home since it looked like rain. Mark declined firmly and took a detour to a public place, a busy coffee shop, until he was sure Diana had driven away. The next day, we reviewed our building's security footage with the property manager. The recording showed Diana entering our building's lobby 3 times in the previous week, each time when Mark and Ethan typically returned from preschool. She never made it past the secure entrance, but the fact that she had attempted to access our building was alarming. We decided to file a police report. The officer who took our statement explained that while Diana's behavior was concerning, it didn't yet meet the legal threshold for stalking in our state. However, he documented our complaint and advised us to continue recording all interactions. The situation escalated again in February when Diana somehow obtained Mark's work email and sent him several messages asking for his professional opinion on home renovation projects she was considering. The emails included photos of her apartment's interior and requests for Mark to stop by sometime to give advice. Mark forwarded the emails to his company's HR department and responded once with a firm message asking her not to contact him again for non-preschool matters. During this time, we noticed Diana frequently appeared in places we regularly visited, our usual grocery store, the coffee shop where Mark often worked on weekend mornings, and even the trail where I jogged several times a week. Each time, she acted surprised to see us, claiming she had just discovered these places recently. The most disturbing incident occurred in early March. Mark and I attended a fundraising dinner for Ethan's preschool at a local restaurant. The event was adults only and required tickets purchased weeks in advance. Halfway through the evening, Diana arrived, claiming she had just decided to support the school although she hadn't RSVP'd or purchased a ticket beforehand. She spent the entire evening trying to insert herself into conversations with Mark, complimenting his suit, and asking about his current projects. What truly unsettled us happened as we were leaving. Diana approached Mark while I was retrieving our coats and slipped a note into his pocket. Mark didn't notice until we got home. The note contained Diana's phone number and the message, "Life is short. Take a chance on what could be. She doesn't have to know." Mark immediately showed me the note, and we agreed this crossed a definitive line. The next day, we returned to the police station with the note, the email evidence, and the security footage. The officer who had taken our original report agreed that Diana's behavior had escalated to harassment and helped us file for a temporary restraining order. The court granted the order, requiring Diana to stay at least 100 feet away from both of us, our home, and Mark's workplace. The order did not prevent her from taking her daughter to the preschool but specified that she must avoid contact with us during drop-off and pick-up times. When Diana was served with the restraining order, she apparently became hysterical, claiming we were ruining her life and that she had done nothing wrong. She told the process server that Mark had led her on and given her signals that he was interested, a complete fabrication that Mark vehemently denied. The preschool director called us the day after Diana received the restraining order. Diana had contacted the school, claiming she was being targeted and harassed by us. The director, now familiar with the full situation, assured us that the school supported our actions and would work to ensure the restraining order was respected on school property. Currently, we're in an uneasy holding pattern. Diana has technically complied with the restraining order, but we still see her watching our building from a distance just beyond the 100-foot limit. She has also started dropping her daughter off at preschool much earlier than necessary, presumably to avoid running into us. The whole situation has put a strain on our family. Ethan has noticed the tension and asked several times why Lily's mom looks mad at us. We've tried to explain in age-appropriate terms that sometimes adults have disagreements, but it's hard to shield them completely from the situation. We're actively house hunting now, hoping to move before the next school year starts. In the meantime, we're documenting every possible violation of the restraining order and maintaining close communication with the preschool staff. I never expected a simple school drop-off routine to evolve into this level of stress and concern. We're trying to maintain normalcy for Ethan's sake, but the constant vigilance is exhausting. Mark has been my rock through all of this, never once giving Diana any encouragement and always prioritizing our family's safety and peace of mind. I'll update again if there are significant developments, but for now, we're taking it one day at a time and hoping Diana eventually loses interest and moves on. Update 2. It's been 4 months since my last update, and the situation with Diana has taken several unexpected turns. About a month after obtaining the restraining order, we noticed Diana had stopped appearing in our neighborhood altogether. Her daughter still attended the preschool, but Diana's mother began handling drop-offs and pickups. We cautiously hoped this meant Diana had finally gotten the message. In late April, we received a call from the preschool director informing us that Diana had withdrawn her daughter from the school, citing a hostile environment. While we felt terrible for the child, who had made friends and was settled in her routine, we couldn't help but feel relieved. 2 weeks after Diana's daughter left the preschool, Mark came home from work visibly shaken. A colleague had shown him a social media post from Diana that contained thinly veiled references to our situation. Although she didn't name us directly, the post described a handsome married architect who had led her on before his jealous wife intervened. The post claimed they had shared meaningful conversations and emotional connections that his wife had misinterpreted. The post included vague details about our neighborhood and Ethan's preschool that made it identifiable to anyone who knew us. Several of Diana's friends had commented, offering sympathy and suggesting the wife, me, was clearly insecure and threatened by her. Mark immediately contacted our attorney, who advised us to screenshot everything but not engage. The post, while inappropriate, didn't technically violate the restraining order since it didn't involve direct contact. The situation took another turn when I received a friend request on social media from a name I didn't recognize. Out of caution, I checked the profile before declining and discovered it belonged to Diana's ex-husband. After consulting with Mark and our attorney, I accepted the request, which was quickly followed by a message asking if we could meet to discuss a matter of mutual concern. Against our attorney's advice but with Mark present, I agreed to meet Diana's ex-husband, Thomas, at a public cafe. Thomas turned out to be a mild-mannered man who seemed genuinely concerned about the situation. He explained that Diana had exhibited similar obsessive behavior toward him during their marriage, often becoming fixated on male colleagues or friends. According to Thomas, Diana's fixations would typically last several months before she moved on to someone new. The most shocking revelation came when Thomas shared that Diana's pattern of moving near her targets was familiar to him. After their separation but before their divorce was finalized, Diana had rented an apartment in the same building as a colleague Thomas suspected she was interested in. When that didn't work out, she moved to a house on the same street as her therapist, whom she had become fixated on. Thomas explained he had reached out because Diana had recently contacted him, asking to reconcile. During their conversation, she mentioned being forced to leave her apartment because of harassment from neighbors. Thomas connected the dots based on details Diana shared and found my original Reddit post, which led him to contact me. He provided contact information for Diana's former therapist, with her permission, who later confirmed to our attorney that Diana had been diagnosed with erotomania, a psychological condition characterized by the delusional belief that another person is in love with them. The therapist had discontinued treatment when Diana began showing up at her home and contacting her family members. Armed with this new information, we returned to court to request that the temporary restraining order be made permanent. The judge, after reviewing the evidence including Thomas's testimony and the therapist's statement, granted our request and expanded the order to include prohibitions against any reference to us on social media. Just when we thought the situation might be resolving, our real estate agent called with disturbing news. While showing our house to potential buyers, we had finally found a new home and listed our current place. She discovered someone had accessed our property without authorization. Nothing was stolen, but several items had been moved, and a framed photo of Mark and Ethan had disappeared from the living room. We immediately suspected Diana and contacted the police. They increased patrols in our area and advised us to install security cameras. The footage from these cameras proved valuable just 3 days later when they captured Diana attempting to access our building's rear entrance at 2 a.m. The police arrested her for violating the restraining order and for attempted breaking and entering. Diana spent 2 nights in jail before being released on bail with an ankle monitor and strict conditions, including mandatory psychological evaluation and treatment. Her attorney argued that she was experiencing a mental health crisis and needed help rather than punishment. We've since moved to our new home in a different neighborhood and enrolled Ethan in a new preschool for the upcoming school year. We've taken extensive precautions with our new address, ensuring it doesn't appear in any public records and instructing friends and family not to share our location with anyone. The most recent development came last week when Diana's attorney contacted ours with a settlement offer. In exchange for our agreement not to pursue civil charges for harassment and emotional distress, Diana would commit to ongoing psychiatric treatment, move to another state where her sister lives, and maintain no contact with our family in any form. After much discussion, we've tentatively agreed to these terms, provided there are legal safeguards in place to ensure compliance. Our primary goal has always been to protect our family and regain our peace of mind, not to punish Diana. This ordeal has been a harsh reminder of how quickly one person's unstable behavior can disrupt many lives. We're cautiously optimistic that this chapter is closing, but we remain vigilant. Trust, once broken, is difficult to restore, and it will take time before we feel completely secure again. Update 3, it's been 6 months since my last update, and I'm hoping this will be my final post about this situation. We've reached what seems to be the end of this difficult chapter in our lives. The agreement with Diana was finalized about 5 months ago. She moved to Arizona to live near her sister, entered an intensive psychiatric treatment program, and has maintained no contact with us. Her attorney provides monthly updates to our lawyer confirming her compliance with the terms of our agreement. According to these updates, Diana has been diagnosed with several mental health conditions beyond the erotomania her former therapist mentioned. She's responding well to treatment and medication, and her sister reports significant improvement in her behavior and thought patterns. Thomas, Diana's ex-husband, has kept in occasional contact with us. He shared that he's now in therapy himself, working through the emotional aftermath of their marriage. He expressed genuine remorse for not recognizing the severity of Diana's condition sooner or warning others about her behavior after their divorce. Our new home has become the sanctuary we hoped for. Located in a gated community with good security, it's about 30 minutes from our previous neighborhood. Ethan has adjusted well to his new preschool and has made several friends already. We've been careful about sharing personal information with other parents, though, a caution that will likely stay with us for years to come. Mark's firm was understanding about the situation and allowed him to work remotely for several weeks during our move and transition. His colleagues have been supportive, and the incident with Diana's social media post has been largely forgotten. We did have one brief scare about 2 months ago when a woman resembling Diana was spotted near Ethan's new preschool. After reviewing security footage, we confirmed it wasn't her, just someone with a similar appearance. Still, the incident showed us how deep our anxiety runs and how long the effects of harassment can linger. The police officer who handled our case checks in periodically. He advised us to maintain our security measures for at least a year, even with Diana living out of state. We've kept the cameras around our property and continue to be cautious about our online presence. One unexpected positive outcome of this experience has been the strengthening of our marriage. Mark and I have always been close, but navigating this crisis together, seeing how unwaveringly he prioritized our family's safety and peace, has deepened my appreciation for him. We've also become more intentional about our time together, recognizing how quickly security can be disrupted. Ethan, thankfully, seems to have processed the changes in his life without significant trauma. He occasionally asks about his old friends from the previous preschool, but he doesn't mention Diana or her daughter anymore. Children are remarkably resilient, and we're grateful he's adapted so well. We've learned some hard lessons through this experience. We're more careful now about the information we share with acquaintances. We pay more attention to warning signs in others' behavior. We've become advocates for stronger stalking laws in our state, connecting with a local organization that supports victims of harassment and stalking. Looking back, I realize we should have taken Diana's behavior seriously much earlier. The signs were there from the beginning: her targeted coldness toward me, her excessive interest in Mark, her eavesdropping, the coincidental move to our neighborhood. If we had documented these behaviors and sought help sooner, perhaps the situation wouldn't have escalated as it did. For anyone reading this who might be experiencing something similar, my advice is simple: trust your instincts. If someone's behavior feels wrong or makes you uncomfortable, it probably is problematic. Document everything. Inform authorities early, even if they can't take immediate action. Build a support network of friends, family, and professionals who understand what you're going through. We were fortunate to have resources that many people don't: the ability to move, access to legal representation, supportive employers, and a strong community around us. We recognize this privilege and have committed to helping others who might face similar situations with fewer resources. As for Diana, I've worked hard to let go of anger toward her. Mental illness is complex, and while it doesn't excuse harmful behavior, it helps explain it. I hope she continues receiving the help she needs and rebuilds her life in a healthier direction. Our focus now is forward, raising Ethan in a secure environment, rebuilding our sense of normalcy, and appreciating each day of peace. The hypervigilance has slowly begun to fade, though I suspect we'll always be more cautious than we were before. This experience has changed us, but we're determined not to let it define us. We're reclaiming our story, one quiet, ordinary day at a time. Thank you to everyone who offered support and advice throughout this ordeal. Your perspectives and encouragement meant more than you know. Now let's move to the next story. Story 2: I caught my wife cheating with my brother, then discovered he was blackmailing her and embezzling from our family business. 6 months later, the truth behind their betrayal shocked me. I'm John, a 32-year-old man who was happily married to Megan, 30F, for the past 5 years. We lived together with my younger brother Alex, 28M, in a spacious house I bought a couple of years ago. Both Alex and I were successful businessmen, running a family company our father started. We expanded it significantly over the years. Alex and I were always close. We shared everything growing up, from toys to secrets. He was my best friend, my confidant, and the person I trusted the most in this world. When I bought the house, it felt natural to invite him to live with us. Megan and I didn't have kids yet, so we had plenty of space. Plus, I thought it would be great for Alex to save some money while he was still establishing himself in the business world. Megan and I met in college. She was studying art history while I was doing my business degree. We hit it off immediately, bonding over our shared love for old movies and spicy food. After graduation, we dated for 2 years before I proposed. Our wedding was a small, intimate affair with close family and friends. Alex was my best man, of course. Life was good. Our business was thriving, my marriage was strong, and I had my brother by my side. We worked hard during the week and often spent weekends together, having barbecues in the backyard or going on short trips. Last month, I had to go on a week-long business trip to close an important deal. It was a success, and I managed to wrap things up a day early. I decided to surprise Megan and Alex by coming home unannounced. I imagined their happy faces when I'd walk through the door, maybe with some takeout and a bottle of wine to celebrate. I arrived home late in the evening. The house was quiet, but I saw lights on upstairs. I quietly made my way up, planning to surprise Megan in our bedroom. As I approached, I heard muffled sounds. My heart started racing, but I told myself I was being paranoid. I pushed open the door. What I saw next will haunt me forever. Megan and Alex were in our bed, naked and entangled. They didn't notice me at first, too lost in their passion. I stood there, frozen, unable to process what I was seeing. My wife and my brother. The two people I trusted most in this world, betraying me in the worst possible way. I must have made a sound because they suddenly looked up. Their faces changed from pleasure to shock to guilt in a matter of seconds. Megan scrambled to cover herself with the sheets, while Alex jumped out of bed, hastily pulling on his pants. "John," Megan gasped, her face pale. You're home early." I couldn't speak. I felt like I was in a nightmare, desperately wanting to wake up. But this was real. Too real. "Bro, Alex stammered, unable to meet my eyes. "How could you?" I finally managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. "How could you do this to me?" Megan started crying. "John, I'm so sorry. We never meant for this to happen. It just did." "Just happened?" I repeated, my shock turning to anger. "Things like this don't just happen, Megan. You made a choice. Both of you." Alex stepped forward, his hands raised in a placating gesture. "John, please. Let's talk about this. It was a mistake. We were weak. It won't happen again." I laughed bitterly. "A mistake? Is that what you call fucking my wife in our bed, Alex? A mistake?" "John, please," Megan pleaded, tears streaming down her face. "We can work through this. I love you." "It didn't mean anything." Her words felt like a slap in the face. "Didn't mean anything? So you threw away our marriage for something that didn't mean anything?" I couldn't stand to be in that room any longer. I turned and walked out, ignoring their calls. I got in my car and drove, with no destination in mind. I just needed to get away. For the next few days, I stayed at a hotel, ignoring the constant calls and messages from both Megan and Alex. I couldn't face them. I couldn't face anyone. I felt like my whole life had been a lie. The woman I loved, the brother I trusted, they had betrayed me in the worst possible way. Friends called, worried about my sudden disappearance, but I couldn't bring myself to tell them what happened. I was embarrassed, angry, and heartbroken. I kept replaying that moment in my head, torturing myself with the images of Megan and Alex together. I didn't know what to do next. The thought of going back home made me sick. The thought of facing Megan and Alex filled me with dread and rage. I had built my life around these two people, and now I felt lost. As I sat in my hotel room, staring at the wall, I realized I needed to confront them. I needed answers. I needed to know how long this had been going on, how they could betray me like this. But most of all, I needed to figure out what to do with the broken pieces of my life. Tomorrow, I decided, I would go back home. Not to reconcile, not to forgive, but to get the truth. And then, I would decide what to do next. My life as I knew it was over, but I was determined not to let their betrayal destroy me completely. Update 1, the truth comes out, and it's worse than I thought. It's been a week since my last post. First, I want to thank everyone for their support and advice. It's been a difficult time, and your words have given me strength. After a few days of avoiding Megan and Alex, I finally went back home to confront them. I needed answers, no matter how painful they might be. When I walked in, Megan and Alex were sitting in the living room. They looked terrible, like they hadn't slept in days. Good, I thought. They should feel bad. "How long?" I asked without preamble. "How long has this been going on?" Alex spoke first. "John, it was just that one time. I swear. We never meant for it to happen." I looked at Megan, waiting for her to confirm or deny this. She wouldn't meet my eyes. "Megan?" I pressed. She started crying again. "I'm so sorry, John. It wasn't just once." My world shattered all over again. "How long?" I repeated, my voice hard. 3 months, she whispered. 3 months. A quarter of a year. While I was working hard to provide for our family, they were sneaking around behind my back. "Why?" I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to know the answer. Alex tried to explain. "We were weak, John. It started innocently enough. Late night talks when you were working late. Comforting each other when we were lonely. And then, it just happened. Just happened," I repeated bitterly. "You keep saying that like it absolves you of responsibility." "We never meant to hurt you," Megan said. I laughed humorlessly. "Well, congratulations. You failed spectacularly at that." I told them I wanted a divorce. Megan cried harder but didn't argue. Alex looked devastated but remained silent. Over the next few days, I started the process of separating our lives. I moved out of the house, letting them deal with the memories we'd made there. I couldn't stand to be in that space anymore. As I was going through our financial records to prepare for the divorce proceedings, I noticed something odd. There were several large transfers from our joint account to an account I didn't recognize. When I investigated further, I discovered it was Alex's personal account. Confused and suspicious, I confronted Megan about it. At first, She tried to brush it off as a mistake, but I pressed harder. Finally, she broke down and revealed the truth. Alex has been blackmailing me, she confessed. I was stunned. Blackmailing you? With what? Megan explained that after their first encounter, she had wanted to end it. She felt guilty and wanted to confess to me. But Alex threatened to tell me himself if she didn't continue the affair. He also demanded money, claiming he needed it for some personal investments. Why didn't you just tell me then? I asked, struggling to understand. I was scared, she said. I thought I'd lose you. And then it just got more and more complicated. I felt sick. My own brother had not only slept with my wife but had been extorting her as well. The betrayal ran even deeper than I'd initially thought. I confronted Alex about the blackmail. He tried to deny it at first, but when I showed him the bank statements, he crumbled. I'm sorry, he said, looking genuinely remorseful. I don't know what came over me. I was jealous of what you had with Megan, of your success. I wanted something for myself. So you decided to take my wife and my money? I asked incredulously. He had no answer for that. I'm now in the process of not only divorcing Megan but also severing all ties with Alex. I've frozen our joint accounts and I'm working with a lawyer to protect my assets and the business. The pain of their betrayal is still fresh, but now it's mixed with anger at their deception. I trusted them both, and they took advantage of that trust in the worst way possible. I'm not sure what the future holds, but I know it won't include either Megan or Alex. I'm focusing on healing and moving forward, one day at a time. Update 2. It's been 2 months since my last update. A lot has happened, and I'm still trying to process it all. First, the divorce is proceeding. Megan isn't contesting anything, which I suppose is the least she could do. We're selling the house and dividing the assets. It's painful, dismantling the life we built together, but it's necessary. As for Alex, that situation has become more complicated. After I confronted him about the blackmail, he seemed genuinely remorseful. He begged for a chance to make things right. Against my better judgment, I agreed to hear him out. We met at a neutral location, a park where we used to play as kids. It felt fitting, somehow. Alex broke down almost immediately. He confessed that he had been using our shared business to fund his own secret ventures. He had gotten in over his head with some risky investments and was desperate for money. I was afraid to tell you, he said. You've always been the successful one, the one with all the answers. I wanted to prove I could do it on my own. I was stunned. All this time, I thought we were equals in the business. I had no idea he felt this way. Why didn't you just talk to me? I asked. I would have helped you. He shook his head. I was too proud. And then one thing led to another, and suddenly I was in too deep. I felt a mix of anger, pity, and sadness. My brother, who I thought I knew so well, had been carrying all this inside him. I'll make it right, he promised. I'll pay back every cent. I'll do whatever it takes to earn your trust again. Part of me wanted to believe him. He was my brother, after all. But the wounds were still too fresh. I need time, I told him. I can't just forgive and forget. He nodded, understanding. Over the next few weeks, Alex worked tirelessly to make amends. He provided full documentation of his secret dealings and worked with our company's financial team to repay what he had taken. He even voluntarily stepped down from his position in the company. Meanwhile, I threw myself into work, trying to keep my mind off the mess my personal life had become. That's when I noticed Tasha, one of our senior managers, watching me with concern. One day, she approached me after a meeting. John, are you okay? You seem different lately. I hadn't told anyone at work about the situation with Megan and Alex, but something about Tasha's genuine concern made me open up. We went for coffee, and I told her everything. She listened without judgment, offering support and, surprisingly, some valuable advice. She warned me to be cautious about trusting Alex again too quickly. People like that, she said, they're good at manipulation. They know how to say what you want to hear. I appreciated her concern, but part of me still wanted to believe Alex could change. He was my brother, after all. We had been through so much together. As the weeks passed, I found myself spending more time with Tasha. She became a source of support and stability in my chaotic life. There was no romantic interest, we were both adamant about keeping things professional, but her friendship was invaluable. With Tasha's encouragement, I started to focus on rebuilding my life. I bought a new place, started some new hobbies, and even considered dating again, though I wasn't quite ready for that yet. As for Alex, I'm still cautious, but I'm giving him a chance to prove himself. He's been consistent in his efforts to make amends, both personally and professionally. It's a long road ahead, but for the first time in months, I feel a glimmer of hope. The betrayal still hurts, and I don't know if I'll ever fully trust either Megan or Alex again. But I'm learning to move forward, to focus on the good things in my life. It's not easy, but I'm getting there, one day at a time. Update 3. It's been 6 months since this whole ordeal began, and I'm finally starting to feel like I'm on solid ground again. The divorce from Megan is finalized. It was a clean break in the end. She didn't contest anything and seemed genuinely remorseful throughout the process. I hope she finds peace and learns from this experience. As for Alex, things took an unexpected turn. Despite his efforts to make amends, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was still off. Tasha's warning about manipulation kept ringing in my ears. I decided to confront Alex one last time, to get to the bottom of everything. We met at our old family home, now empty and waiting to be sold. As soon as we sat down, I laid it all out. Alex, I need the whole truth. No more lies, no more half-truths. What's really going on? For a moment, I thought he would deflect again. But then something in him seemed to break. He started talking, and once he started, he couldn't stop. Alex confessed that he had always struggled with feelings of inadequacy, especially when it came to me. Our parents, though loving, had often compared us, usually to my advantage. While I thrived under pressure, Alex felt overlooked and undervalued. You were always the golden child, he said, his voice bitter. Top of the class, star athlete, successful businessman. I was just Alex, your little brother. I was shocked. I had no idea he felt this way. In my eyes, we were a team, equals. He went on to explain that his affair with Megan wasn't just about desire. It was about feeling valued, desired, powerful. For once, he said, I had something you didn't. Something you wanted. As he spoke, I felt a mix of emotions, anger at his actions, pity for his pain, and guilt for not seeing his struggle sooner. Why didn't you ever tell me? I asked. He shrugged. Would it have mattered? You can't help being you. We talked for hours, really talked, perhaps for the first time in our adult lives. I learned about his insecurities, his struggles, his desperate attempts to prove himself. By the end of our conversation, I felt drained but also lighter. There was still a long way to go, but for the first time, I felt like I truly understood my brother. I suggested that Alex consider therapy to work through his issues. To my surprise, he agreed without hesitation. I'm tired of feeling this way, he admitted. I want to be better. Over the next few months, Alex committed to therapy and to making real changes in his life. He started his own small business, separate from our family company. It was tough going at first, but I could see the pride in his eyes as he built something of his own. As for me, I'm focusing on rebuilding my life. The company is doing well, and I'm finding joy in my work again. Tasha and I have become close friends, and her support has been invaluable. I'm not ready to forgive Alex or Megan fully yet. The hurt they caused is still there. But I'm learning to let go of the anger. I'm learning to focus on my own growth and happiness. Here is the completion of the post. Looking back on this whole experience, I've learned a lot about myself, about trust, and about the complexity of human relationships. I've learned that sometimes the people we think we know best can surprise us in both good and bad ways. I've learned the importance of communication, of really listening to the people in our lives. I'm not the same person I was 6 months ago. The betrayal changed me, but I'm determined not to let it define me. I'm more cautious now, yes, but also more empathetic. I understand now that everyone is fighting their own battles, even if they don't show it. As for the future, I'm taking it one day at a time. Alex and I are slowly rebuilding our relationship. It's different now, more honest, more equal. We're not just brothers, we're becoming friends again. I'm not dating yet, but I'm open to the possibility. For now, I'm focusing on myself, on my work, my hobbies, and my friendships. Tasha has been an incredible friend through all of this, and I'm grateful for her support. To anyone going through something similar, I want to say this: it gets better. It's not easy, and it takes time, but you can get through it. Don't be afraid to lean on your friends, to seek help if you need it. And most importantly, don't let someone else's actions destroy your faith in yourself or in others. This experience has taught me that life can throw unexpected curveballs, but it's how we handle them that defines us. I'm choosing to move forward with hope and determination. The road ahead might not be easy, but I'm ready for whatever comes next.